One of the reasons you have difficulty understanding native speakers, or you're not able to interact with them or communicate with them productively, or one of the reasons lying behind your weak listening skills is your lack of knowledge of native English idioms, your lack of knowledge of natural English idioms. In other words, the problem is with the fact that you've only learned textbook English. So one reason for your poor listening skills is your textbook English. And in today's video, what I want to do is help you learn a couple of English expressions and idioms that can help you avoid sounding like a textbook. So let's get started. The first English expression used by native speakers that can enable you to avoid sounding like a textbook is something melts in your mouth. Something melts in your mouth. Something melts in your mouth is used to describe a food that is delicious, to describe the taste of a food that you find pleasant. In other words, when you say a certain type of food or something melts in your mouth, it means something is so delicious to you. You find something extremely soft or extremely delicious. In other words, you find something extremely pleasant to eat. Something provides you with a lot of pleasure when you eat it. An example of this expression: this chocolate cake is so soft and rich, it just melts in your mouth. This chocolate cake is soft and rich, it just melts in your mouth, which means this chocolate cake is soft and rich. It is really delicious when you eat it. You find it really delicious and pleasant when you eat it. Eating it is so pleasurable because it's extremely delicious. Now we're getting to the second English expression that you can use to avoid sounding like a textbook and make your English conversation more similar to that of native speakers, which is to get lost in thought. To get lost in thought. To get lost in thought. When you get lost in thought, what happens is you start thinking deeply and profoundly about something. You start thinking about something so much that you fail to pay attention to other things. In other words, you're preoccupied with something. You're busy thinking about something in a way that you fail to pay attention to other things. You lose your concentration on other things. Let me give you an example of this expression. She didn't hear me calling her because she got lost in thought, staring at the sky. She didn't hear me calling her because she got lost in thought, staring at the sky, which means when I was calling her, she didn't hear me because she was thinking deeply and profoundly about something. You know, she'd been drowned in the world of her thoughts, and she was so busy thinking that she failed to pay attention to other things, and she was not focused on anything else other than whatever it was that she was thinking about, so she couldn't hear me when I was calling her. She got lost in thought. She was deeply thinking about whatever it was in her mind that she was thinking about. Now we're getting to the third English phrase that you can use to avoid sounding like a textbook and to speak more naturally, which is to go by the name of something. To go by the name of something. When we say something goes by the name of something, it means it is referred to by a certain name, or it is called a certain name, or it is known by people by a certain name. In other words, when you say something goes by the name of, let's say, A, it means something is called A. People know something as A. People know something by the name of A. So to go by the name of something means to be known by a certain name, to be referred to by using a certain name. An example of this expression: he goes by the name of Max in the music industry, but his real name is Matthew. He goes by the name of Max in the music industry, but his real name is Matthew, which means in the music industry, in the world of music, people know him by the name of Max, but his real and actual name is not Max, it is Matthew. He's just called Max in the world of music, in the music industry. That's the name that people know him by, but his actual name is Matthew. Now we're getting to the next English phrase used by native speakers that you need to learn too. Why? In order to avoid sounding like a textbook, which is to hit an all-time high or low. To hit an all-time high or low. Once again, to hit an all-time high or low. When something hits an all-time high or low, it reaches the highest or the lowest possible amount or level ever recorded. Once again, when something hits an all-time low, it reaches the highest possible amount or level ever recorded. Or when something hits an all-time low, it reaches the lowest possible amount or level ever recorded. An example of this expression: unemployment rates have hit an all-time low this year. Unemployment rates have hit an all-time low this year. Unemployment rates have hit an all-time low this year, which means unemployment rates have reached the lowest possible level or amount this year. On the other hand, we could say unemployment rates have hit an all-time high this year, which means unemployment rates have reached the highest possible amount or level this year. And now we're getting to the fifth English phrase of today's video. In other words, the final phrase of today's video that you need to learn and use to make your English conversations more similar to those of native speakers and do your best to avoid sounding like a textbook, which is to let the dust settle. To let the dust settle. Once again, to let the dust settle. When you let the dust settle, what you do is wait for a situation to get better, to improve a little bit, to become more clear before making a decision, before taking action. So when you let the dust settle, what you do is wait for a situation to improve or to get better before taking action, before making an important decision, before doing something. An example of this expression: let's wait a few days and let the dust settle before we talk to her again. Let's wait a few days and let the dust settle before we talk to her again. Once again, let's wait a few days and let the dust settle before we talk to her again, which means let's wait a few days, please be patient, let's wait a few days, let's give it a few days and let the dust settle. Let the situation improve on its own, get better on its own, or get more clear before talking to her again, before doing something, before taking action. That's about all, guys. Thank you for watching today's video. You learned 5 English expressions and idioms that you can use to avoid sounding like a textbook and to speak a more advanced English. Let's review these phrases once again together. Something melts in your mouth. Something melts in your mouth. To get lost in thought. To get lost in thought. To go by the name of something. To go by the name of something. To hit an all-time high. To hit an all-time high, or to hit an all-time low. To hit an all-time low. To let the dust settle. To let the dust settle. Thank you for watching today's video. Make sure you like this video in support of this channel and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'll be back soon with another video.